Following criticism from the Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, CBS has announced it will stop editing interviews on its Sunday show, Face the Nation. From now on, interviews will now air on the show as live, turn on the tape and go, or live to tape, turn on the tape and go and not cut it up. No cuts unless a national security or legal issue requires it, and the post. The full interviews and transcripts will still be available online as before, but you will never see snippets of an interview on Face the Nation. It will be from start to finish. Noem accused CBS of whitewashing the truth, her quote, by removing segments of her taped interview, particularly her remarks about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, whom she described as a known human smuggler. That claim became a flashpoint in broader debates over media transparency and bias, and now we have this solution. You can call it that for CBS at least. The policy shift arises amid mounting institutional scrutiny. CBS's parent company, Paramount, recently settled a $16 million lawsuit with former President Donald Trump and editing disputes over a 60 Minutes interview. That interview was Kamala Harris, and he claimed that that interview actually was election interference, and it helped him get elected. It was supposed to make it worse to get elected, but of course then he said he won a landslide. But that interview was election interference because she said something kind of bubbly and weird in the actual interview, and then she was edited out or something like that. Anyway, background adds context to the whole network's responsibility of this move. It's CBS. They own Face the Nation. They own 60 Minutes. The Paramount company, the owner company, and Skydance, whatever you call it right now, are doing their best to play nice to the Trump administration. So they're doing more non-edits, I guess. CBS framed the change as a win for transparency, giving audience the unfiltered interviews they deserve. If that were the case, they would have been doing it already. There's a reason why they are edited for TV and what's going on. Some worry that unedited interviews may allow some falsehoods or unchecked claims to go live on air, which is why this happens. Host Margaret Brennan and others on the show who do the show will retain the ability to fact check in real time, but they won't be able to do an interview and then come back with we did the interview and we did this. Real time fact checking is not exactly it's more or less a science. It's kind of more of an art, but it's hard to do in real time, especially when some of these interviewers, especially in the Trump administration, are pretty combative. And once you try to ask a question, get a check, they basically turn it into a reason to fight. This landing only affects Face the Nation. 60 Minutes can still edit their traditional subject matters because they are long form interview type shows. They're news magazines. This is different. So while this marks a visible change on one platform, the broader media organization still uses standard editing across the platform. You have to edit things out. I'm a news person. When you do an interview with someone, you're asking a bunch of questions and get bits and pieces, and then you put those bits and pieces into your actual report so it makes sense. You may give somebody a 5-minute talk back and forth on questions. You use about 30 seconds of their sound bites for a 90-second to 2-minute story because it's used for the color of it. You don't just roll the whole thing just because it exists. We will see how this works out. However, the enhanced transparency with the interviews in full and, building public trust is a thing. Less room for perception of manipulation. But who thought that it was being manipulated? Who's actually thinking they're being manipulated? Who's actually thinking they're doing something to change the narratives? It's only the people who think that it's a problem to change the narrative when the narrative they're giving is kind of slanted to begin go. It opens the door for unnerving and misleading content that you can just toss in there, throw in there just offhand, and because you can't get rid of it. You can't edit it. You can't check them on it. And concerns about editorial standards are sacrificed by optics. It looks like it's better because we don't edit any of it, but it actually isn't. Trust me. I'm doing this unedited, and I made at least 3 mistakes in diction that I wish I could redo. And that's part of the reason why this is the 4th time I've actually recorded this video, because that's how this thing works. I don't like jump cuts. I like smoothing things out. I don't like taking out all the pauses, so it seems like I never take a breath and keep talking on and on, because that's how YouTube and then these videos work these days, because they don't never stop talking, and it keeps going on and on and on, and a way to draw your ends because you have the attention span of a goldfish, and that way you don't get... No, I just talk. I have a script that's in front of me. I read the script back and forth. I interject some points here or there. I do notes on some things going back and forth. Sometimes I'll cut things off and put in videos because you guys want to see the videos, and it works in those issues. That's where the edits work. That's where things come through. If you're going to talk to an official on these Sunday shows, and they give you a window, and everybody gets to talk to the same one. So they give you a window of like 5:30 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. so that everybody gets their 15-20 minute window to talk. You do your interview. You ask your questions. They're all mostly like the same ones, but you get a couple that are different, a couple that are unique to you, your personality, your show. One of the things that Tim Russert was famous for, and of course Chuck Todd got blasted for asking this sort of a simple, sort of their style of question leading to an answer. Tim Russert asked the questions that made people humanize, made them sort of answer questions and kind of say, oh yeah, that means something. Chuck Todd asked questions that were kind of needling, kind of weird, and sometimes, obvious questions. When obvious questions aren't needed, a deep dive into something goes forward. Those are just two people in general. Those are NBC folks, not CBS folks. As a person who does journalism on the internet because no one's going to pay me to do it for real, I'm just a guy just sort of barking and just doing stuff. It is what it is. I make comments on the media stands, how things work and don't work these days because I have some background, and I'm a citizen and have the right to do that as well. I have a following, a small following, but not enough that anybody will, is targeting me. Kristi Noem doesn't care, if I talk about her because not enough people are facing that type of thing. Also, I'm not talking all that terrible about her. I'm just basically regurgitating what everybody else to say, so that's my excuse. But this here turn is a bit disturbing. It's scary. It is the administration, it is the people in charge, the folks that the journalists say they're there to check power, being checked by the power. And is it unfair? Is it unjust? Are they actually doing things to manipulate the story? My thinking is no, because the people in power are doing all they can to manipulate the story. We see them with our own eyes manipulating the story themselves. And so when it's editing tricks for time and to get things clear and because space and because in these interviews on TV, there's never any pauses. They just do that for TV stuff. It's there. So you're going to enjoy the real natural sounds on Face the Nation, which is cool. I actually like interviews where you actually have pauses and satellite bounces and things where it seems like they have to think about things going forward instead of the perfectly cut in and out. So that's great. But you're also going to see some things that is going to be pushed in there. This administration is a big, big, big purveyor of dropping in little bombs, little hits, little jabs and things that are just snarky and just ridiculous, have no meaning about the story, the interview, or the questions that's out there, because that's what they do. They're haters. They actually are haters. And I'm a hater because I hate what we're doing here. I hate that I'm having to do this in this little box on YouTube. Sorry, guys. But I also hate the direction that truth and journalism and news and history and information and just common understanding and knowledge is going. So this is not so much a story about Kristi Noem, Face the Nation, or the interview process or even television itself. This is a rant about information. Who's controlling it? Who's monitoring it? Who's fact-checking it? And who's producing it? There's plenty of people on the internet who are chopping things up all the time to get their own words out there, and that's fine. Both sides. There's plenty of people on TV, both sides, based on who's paying the bills, that want to get a message out that either want to appease the administration or want to really fight the administration, like drop gloves and go at it, or they just want to keep a paycheck and make sure they're producing decent information so they can keep a paycheck no matter who's in charge. No problem. This might turn out to be a problem. If you have a problem with it, or maybe you don't, let me know in the comments.